Hey there, welcome to the Deliver on Your Business podcast, where you are the boss. I'm Ron from EntreCourier.com. Entree is from entrepreneur, for somebody who is in business for themselves. And here's the deal, folks. If you're an independent contractor, you are operating a business, ready or not. So that makes you an Entree Courier. Welcome to the club. This podcast is here to help you think like a business owner and to thrive in your business. So let's get started, shall we? Well, hey there, Courier Nation. Welcome to episode 9 in the Deliver on Your Business podcast. This is the 9th episode also on the 31-day Courier MBA series. And this is the second day that we talk about operations, about the business decisions and the strategy, the things that you do to make yourself more profitable. We talked yesterday about tracking your work, measuring your performance. And we talked about the importance of measuring hourly profit because that's the best indicator of just how well we're doing. It's the best way to compare your performance for an hour, for a week, for a day, for a month, or for a single delivery. And today, and for the next 8 episodes, we'll get into the practical stuff that will help us to improve on that profit per hour. Now, you probably figured out that I can be a bit of a geek if you listened to me yesterday talking about tracking every delivery and telling you that I'm averaging this much per hour on Fridays and I'm making this much between 8 and 9. So this little story probably shouldn't surprise you a whole lot. I used to play one of those stupid little arcade type games on my phone, and I was addicted. And the big thing was for me, I had to do better every time I got a score. If I had a really good score, I had to do better. And if it was kind of like there was like this level that I just had to get to. And if I got to that level, well, I had to do it again. And so I would just keep playing over and over. And after a while, I did this really geeky thing. And I kind of created this little game for myself where I would track how I did on the game by creating a point system. If I reached this goal, I would get a point for that. And, the idea was how many points could I get out of 10 games? I told you I was a geek. Well, after a while, I was kind of leveling out. It was about the same thing all the time. And I decided I'm going to play with this a little bit. And I bumped my goal up about 50%. I've got to get to about half of what I was doing more before I could give myself a point. And I struggled for a little bit. But I was surprised at how long it took before I was pretty regularly getting about that same score, that same number of points, and I leveled out again. So I bumped it up again, so I was now double what the original was, and I'm talking about a score that I hardly ever reached. And the funny thing is, once I set that goal, I was starting to hit that more often. Now, there's a lesson in that when you have something to focus on, when you have a goal and when you have something that you're striving for, you're much more likely to attain it. Having that goal made all the difference. And that brings us today to something that it's kind of a mix of what we talked about yesterday in measuring performance and measuring your profit per hour. And in going back to episode 6, where we talked about setting a goal or a benchmark that you want to hit, and that it needed to be set on a per hour amount. Do you notice a trend in the things that I'm talking about? It's in the per hour. The fact is that when we are trading time for money, we want to measure based on time. We need to measure and evaluate on a time-based rate. Per hour is really the best way to measure how you're doing. And because we could be doing something for just a straight hour, it could be an hour and 15 minutes, and 25-minute delivery. All of these things, if you figure out a per hour rate, you get a better way of evaluating. Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to take that concept and we will turn it into something practical. We will turn it into something that you can use to guide you in making business decisions. We will talk about what I call the 40-cent rule. And here's the rule in its most simple form. Your time is worth 40 cents a minute. Wait. That's $24 an hour. Isn't that a bit high? And who are you to tell me what my personal time is worth, right? Guys, it is up to you. It's completely up to you what you set that rate at. I do 40 cents a minute. I think there's a good reason for doing it. You could do 30 cents a minute. That is more realistic. And some people kind of start with that. But one thing that I want to tell you to do before you go too low, go back to episode 6 if you haven't listened to it. Or read the transcript if you want to. There's a link in the description or in the show notes. We talk a bit more about things like taxes and your expenses and the benefits that you're not receiving. And a good rule of thumb is that at $18 an hour in earnings as an independent contractor, that is about equivalent to a $12 per hour full-time W-2 type job. $12 an hour. Is that enough? And so this is the point, though, of what I was saying when I told you in the intro about that stupid game that I had on my phone. I had to delete that thing off of my phone just to get my life back. But I want to encourage you to shoot higher. That's part of the benefit of using the rule in the first place, because what it does is instead of randomly throwing a number out there, you've got a gauge that can help you throughout the day to help you push towards that higher number. And I'll be honest, I've seriously been toying with bumping it up myself to calling it the 50-cent rule for myself, which is $30 an hour. And maybe that's getting a little too high. I don't know. Maybe you go incremental. You could call it the 45-cent rule. $27 an hour seems like, okay, that's a little more attainable starting from 24, right? The problem is the math with 45 cents, it just isn't as easy as it is with 40 or 50. But stay tuned. If I start going that route, I'll let people know how that's going. But here's the thing. We want to put that 40-cent rule in action, or whatever rule you come up with, put it in action. Here it is in a nutshell. And I'm just going to do it for illustration purposes at 40 cents. Anything that you do that brings in money should bring in 40 cents a minute or more. And anything that slows you down is keeping you from earning money. So anything that is stopping you or slowing you down, that is costing you 40 cents a minute. Every minute is worth 40 cents. So you can use the 40-cent rule to evaluate deliveries and to kind of watch your expenses. Now, I've actually had some blog posts on the 40-cent rule, and some I've gotten in a little bit deeper. But the first thing I want to look at is using that 40-cent rule to evaluate a delivery opportunity. And there are 3 things that you want to do when you get an order to determine whether or not it is worth accepting. What you want to get to is that order going to pay you 40 cents a minute or more? All right. And there's 3 questions that you ask. You ask, how much do I think this order is going to pay? How long do I think it will take it? And what do I think that it will pay per minute? Now, you're going to end up having to use educated guesses on some of this. With Grubhub, it's easier to know what your order is going to pay. With some of the other platforms, you might have to make more of an educated guess. And don't worry about if you're super accurate. This is more about kind of a guideline to help you along, okay? So don't get lost or caught up in the weeds. When you get your order offer, you want to take a good look at what they are presenting. Most of the apps will show you on the map where you drop off, where you pick up. And this is why I believe it was episode 4, we dug into knowing your market. You want to know your market so you have an idea how far you're going. Get an estimate real quickly of how long you think it's going to take you from the moment you head to the restaurant to the moment you drop off. Once you have an idea of what the order is going to pay and how long it's going to take, just do quick division. Divide your pay by the number of minutes. And you know what? You can use, you can say, okay, Google, or hey, Siri, or whatever to get your voice activated assistant, and it'll do the math for you real quickly if you don't like doing the math. But that's what you do. And then once you figure out what you think that's going to pay you per minute, you just ask, is it 40 cents a minute or more? If it is, go for it. If it's a lot less, you know that that's an absolute reject. If it's somewhere in between, you use your gut. If you think you might have a good chance at still making it over 40, I'd say go for it. Or if you think that you might be able to make up for it, if it still seems like it might be okay, then go for it. But use that 40-cent rule to help you decide, is this the order that I want to take? You can use the 40-cent rule to help you evaluate delivery routes. So you have a direct route to the customer, and you have a longer route that loops around on the freeway, but it gets you there faster. Which one do you use? Well, you evaluate your cost of the extra miles versus the cost of time. Now, here's the thing. You know that we're talking 40 cents a minute. Yesterday, we were talking about figuring out your profit and your cost per mile on your vehicle. And a lot of times that cost per mile is going to be right around that 35 to 40 cent range. Basically, what you know is that a minute is worth about a mile on either side. And so, which one costs you more? Does it cost you more to lose the time by taking the shorter route? Or does it cost you more to drive the extra miles? Do you see what I'm saying? So if your route is going to take you a minute longer, but it saves you a mile, it's about a wash, You make up some, you lose some. But if the route saves you 4 minutes, but it takes you 2 miles longer, you pick the 4-minute savings because that 4 minutes of time that you save is worth more than the 2 miles of extra expense. Do you understand where I'm going with that? So you can use that to help you evaluate your routes. Now, tomorrow we are going to get into equipment a bit more as far as some of the equipment that can help you with your delivery work. But you can use the 40-cent rule to help you with making purchases. There are times that you've got to ask, is what I'm about to buy going to save time, and how much time? Well, now you've got a value on your time that you can use to evaluate. And sometimes you can justify a decision using the 40-cent rule. I've done this with a delivery bag where I decided to go ahead and purchase a little bit larger bag it's got firm sides, the floppy little cloth bags that they give you. They can be a pain to get food into. And between getting in and out of restaurants more quickly and just being able to get the food into the bag much more quickly, it actually saves me enough time that I figured that after a while, at 40 cents a minute, it's going to pay for itself. Maybe it's a question of parking at a meter or getting the free parking that's 2 blocks away. Is it better to pay the 25 cents at the meter or to lose the $2 in time for the extra 5 minutes that you've got to walk to that free parking? In one of the articles that I posted on the blog, I mentioned this about a time that I forgot to check the order for a soda. It was completely my fault. I should have seen it. And this is a big ticket delivery on a platform that did tipping after the fact. And so, for one side, I felt responsible. The other side is there's a tip at stake here. And I said, you know what? Tell you what, I am sorry about that. It's totally my fault. I'm going to go back. I'm going to get this on my time. Now, we're not required to do this as drivers, but sometimes you make that decision as well, right? It's a business decision. But here's the deal. Instead of taking the 15 minutes to go back to the restaurant, for the 15 minutes it was going to take to drive back and then turn around and come back with it, not to mention however long it was going to take to try and convince them that, yes, there was a soda that was forgotten, I just decided that, hey, right here on the corner is a convenience store. I'm just going to buy it. So I bought that out of my own pocket. But here's the thing is that $1.50 that I bought there, that was better than the $6 in time that I was going to lose going back and getting that. Both of those decisions paid off an awful lot more in the tip. Sometimes you just know what to do, but there are times that the decision is just that close that having a guide like this 40-cent rule is going to give you a basis on which to make a decision. If you think something is going to cost time, put a value on it. Do you see where I'm going with that? Put a value on it. In the 40-cent rule, the value is your time's worth 40 cents a minute. You set whatever value you want on it. But as I was saying earlier, set it high enough. I want to thank you for tuning in today and joining us. I do invite you to come back tomorrow, because tomorrow we will talk about some of those tools that you can get to help your profitability. And we'll talk a little more on the 40-cent rule and how some of those tools can help you. Come on over to our website at deliveronyourbusiness.com. You can also reach us at entrecourier.com. It's all pretty much the same website. You can check us out. You can scroll through posts. You can scroll through the blog. You can look us up on Twitter, Facebook, or even LinkedIn by searching for Entre Courier on those platforms. And you can look for our podcast on all of the main podcast channels and stuff. And as I always do, I like to save this part for last just because I want to make sure that I've earned the right to ask this by providing useful information. Folks, if anything that I'm telling you, if any of the information on the website, on the blog, or in the podcast is helpful to you at all, could you please let other people know about it? Let people know that could also benefit from this information. If you know people that are doing deliveries, could you let them know there? Or share us on Facebook or social media of any kind, and leave a review at wherever you get your podcasts, because those reviews help us get found. The more people that can find out about us, the more people we can help. One last thing that I want to say, that I want to ask you, that I want to encourage of you, and that is, please go out there, take control of your business, go and be the boss.